thing that could go wrong, and I'm just like, why am I here?
Yeah.
And then you think about, like, I mean, it's a must. It's a must. I got to make money, and it's like, what do? I want to be self-quarantined. I'm not working. I'm at home, but it really breaks my heart, man. Honestly, I just might, I don't have a spleen, so I'm real subject to like infection. My mom has like lung cancer, and I have a 1.5-year-old daughter, and I'm out here with all these people. But like, what is a man to do? You know what I mean? It's crazy. I just feel like the whole us as a country, we're just in uncharted territory, and I feel that I don't want to say ignorant, but I feel like we can go where the United States, where the U.S. of A. This isn't going to happen to us.
Yeah. And that's how it goes, right? Because for a lot of things, and that's part of it is just being young and not having things happen to you. Part of it is we haven't dealt with a virus like this before, so not going through it, not seeing the consequences. The death rate is low right now. The cases are low that are at least positively confirmed cases. It's low, and so you look at it and you go, okay, well, maybe it's not a big deal. Maybe this is just a bunch of hype. But when all these medical experts are coming out and saying it's only going to get worse, at least for the next couple of weeks here, you gotta reconsider everything. And Brandon, I feel for you, man, and thanks for the call. Like, that guy, he's got to go out and work. He doesn't want to be out. That's not what he's dying to do. He's in a bar full of people. Like, he's passing them glasses. They're passing him money. All that stuff, all that contact. That's what he's doing. And he's got to. And like, what happens if all that stuff gets shut down? I don't know. And I feel terrible about it. Because that is the complicated thing of this. There's people that own restaurants. There's people that own bars that work at those places, and that's how they survive. And what happens when you shut that down for the sake of public interest, for the sake of public health? I don't know. I don't know how the government handles it. I don't have those answers. I can't provide them for you. I wish I could. But just looking at me and my situation and where I'm at, like, I mean, part of it is I'm here because I need the money. What am I going to do? I don't have a ton of money saved up. I can't go for weeks or months at a time without working. I got to be here. Like, I got to make money. I got to pay my rent. I got to pay for food, all that stuff. So I'm going to be here. But I'm in a booth by myself, and it's a little bit easier for people that have to be out and about in the public. People who are essential personnel, firefighters, medical people, all that stuff. Like, it's a tough job. But for the people who work at bars, the people who work at restaurants, should they be out? Should they be dealing with people that are out, people celebrating St. Patrick's Day 3 days beforehand just because they really want to get loaded? Is that the right thing? Is it time to self-quarantine? That's what I'm doing. 855-212-4227. And by the way, Christian Wood, who plays for the Detroit Pistons and played against Rudy Gobert, he's got the coronavirus. And so there's another professional player that's at least the third professional player that has been diagnosed with it. So we'll see how far that goes. Again, 855-212-4227. I'm Vince Quinn. You can hop in on Twitter at It's Vince Quinn. That's all one word. It's Vince Quinn. And let's go to a sports update with John Fass.
Sports Flag. All right, Vince, the NFL Draft is the latest event to be impacted by the coronavirus. According to Pro Football Weekly, the league has decided to take the draft out of Vegas and to postpone it until at least late May. The draft was originally scheduled to run from April 23rd through the 25th. Meanwhile, NFL teams have until Monday to use their franchise tags, and the Redskins have done just that, using the non-exclusive tag on guard Brandon Sheriff. The NBA now has 3 players who have tested positive for the coronavirus. Pistons forward Christian Wood, the latest according to multiple reports. He joins Jazz teammates Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell as NBA players who have contracted COVID-19. Well, he's a Hall of Fame coach. He's been to 7 Final Fours. He's the only coach to win a national championship at 2 different schools. But he's also the only head coach who was fired following the FBI's investigation into pay-for-play recruiting practices. And now Rick Pitino is back coaching college hoops, hired as the new head man at Iona. Pitino coached Louisville for 16 seasons, but was fired in October of 2017 and spent the last 2 years coaching in Greece. Meantime, the decision from Augusta National to postpone the Masters Well, that was hardly a surprise given the current climate of the sports world, but the Golf Channel's Matt Adams told Jody McDonald here on CBS Sports Radio that we could be looking at the Masters being played twice in the span of 6 months.
I'm hearing rumors, whispers that maybe they'll play the Masters in October of this year, but that means they're going to go from October of 2020 to hopefully that it happens if there's no other things that interfere. April of 2021, that short a distance from one Masters to one Masters. That's how extraordinary this time is that we're in.
Churchill Downs, the site of the Kentucky Derby, will delay reopening its stables and training center until March 31st. An update on the 146th running of the Roses, scheduled for May 2nd, is expected sometime next week. Meanwhile, an unidentified player for the XFL Seattle Dragons has tested positive for the coronavirus. He played in Seattle's game at Houston on March 7th and the February 29th game in St. Louis. And in an empty arena, UFC Fight Night from Brazil saw Charles Oliveira defeat Kevin Lee by submission in the third round. I'm John Fass.
Wake up with D.A. Damon Amendolara. Mornings from 6 to 10 Eastern on CBS Sports Radio. This is Tiki Barber, and you're listening to CBS Sports Radio live on WFNZ.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans, America's luck.
As of right now, and by the way, I'm doing 2 shows until further notice, a weekend, so it might get real skinny, but we'll see. We will see. But well said, Tony. I appreciate the call as always. Let's go to Jack in Bristol, Connecticut. You're on the fan.
Yeah, Danielle. You mentioned about the gaming. They did announce in Massachusetts they're going to close a couple of the casinos.
Oh, is it the Springfield one? I think I got it.
Yeah, that one, and there was another one that I hadn't heard of, but they're going to close. The other thing was about the quarterbacks, the free agents.
Mm-hmm.
Are you hearing anything else besides Brady about any movement or?
No, I mean, I think he's going to be the first domino to fall,
Okay.
and everything will fall in line accordingly. So he has to be the first decision maker because it's going to be real messy if he's not.
Okay. All right. And the only other thing, there was a gentleman, he's an epidemiologist at Yale. He said there could be 2 waves with this. A big wave of the corona
Mm-hmm.
dissipates, goes away, and then comes back again. So he said it's too early for them to tell, but it could happen.
Oh, my God. Can you imagine?
No, I can't. I don't like to think about it,
No.
but you have to be alert. That's the main thing.
Yeah, that's the thing, Jack. And thanks for the call. I appreciate it.
Okay.
And like I said, that's the thing. Like, everybody needs to be taking this seriously. I mean, when the whole city of Hoboken has to put a curfew in because you people that think you're superheroes immune to this whole thing, they have to put a curfew in because there was a bar fight in Hoboken that the victim was slipping in and out of consciousness, according to the statement that they released, the city of Hoboken, and they had to wait 30 minutes to get to the person because of all of the other calls that were coming in. And that's why they decided to shut the bars down starting at 10 p.m. on a nightly basis until further notice. And that's why the word Hoboken is trending along with Hoboken, New Jersey, in the entire United States. So you guys need to take this, everybody, me included, need to take this very seriously. I sat down and I literally wiped down all surfaces, except for the screen, because the call screen, if you touch that, it clicks on and I don't want to screw anything up. But everything else, including the microphone, including the keyboard on the desktop here, I mean, I scrubbed down everything. I'm not taking any chances, and I'm very happy that not the state of New Jersey, but the county of Bergen, New Jersey, that they have suspended all in-person classroom time, teacher to students. I just think that was very good. I mean, when you look around and someone sneezes in a classroom, you kind of look at each other like, because, it's not like a regular office building. I mean, in a classroom, you're getting 20 to 25 kids, sometimes even 30 kids, a new group of them every 40, 42 minutes. And what is that, like 100 people a day that you are directly exchanging carbon dioxide with? It's a dangerous thing. So bravo the Bergen County Education Association for keeping the kids home and teachers home, working from home. Okay, time for a very quick break. I'll take more of your calls after the break on really anything you want to talk about tonight. It's as Marufo said when I walked in, it's a free-for-all. So let's get it going. 877-337-6666. I'm Danielle McCartan on the Fan.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them? Would you notice an 8-year-old girl who's not excited for summer break because she may...
Hampton by Hilton takes the thinking out of travel with perks like free hot breakfast featuring freshly made waffles and Chobani Greek yogurt smoothies. Knowing you made the right hotel choice makes this
smoothies
that much more delicious. Hampton by Hilton. Book now at hampton.com.
Hi, this is Dr. Phil. The new coronavirus
All right, so we're at a few more minutes to go with Charles Pellegrino. Then we'll go to open lines coming up on Coast to Coast. Charles Pellegrino does not have a book out on this particular topic, but it has often spent time researching these real stories of scientists attempting to solve problems and then made novels out of them, as well as being a scientist in his own right, who has in fact been the victim of pushback, in some cases violent pushback, and being the victim of online hoaxing too, when he was telling the truth about things which some people online just didn't want him to, thought nothing about destroying his career just because they didn't like what he was saying. And I think this is moving forward. That's one of my greatest fears. What's your greatest fear? As you're thinking about COVID-19, what do you think we should be most worried about? What do you think if you were to make any sort of prediction about what we need to do better as a population, what do you think that is?
Well, I think my scariest thought is the mentality of the mob. And, it's... And things that go out into social media and that warnings then have to go out. No, people, don't be gargling with Clorox.
Right.
And the other extreme that a couple of weeks ago, John Oliver was talking about that, the other extreme is where people go, well, I'm immune, and they'll be licking subway handles,
right.
strap handles
right.
in subways. But I mean, it is kind of scary when I hear that Corona beer sales went down almost right away, significantly, which means there is a significant fraction of our population that is really 1 + 1 = 3 stupid, or,
Well, I mean, certainly for the coronavirus connection, I think we would all agree on that. You don't have to euphemize that. I think everybody's good that anybody who tried to make the coronavirus connection, that's pretty dumb.
Yeah, but enough people did to actually change the sales of the beer.
Right.
And I still don't understand the toilet paper thing. I mean, I don't get that at all. I mean,
I'll explain it to you. Wait, Yeah, I get that, but I'll explain that to you. I think it still comes down to when they're telling people, get enough stuff and you don't have to go out for 2 weeks. And so if you're in a family of 4, what are you going to do? And let's say you're low on toilet paper in the house anyway. You're going to go buy one of those big 72 roll things or something. And what happens is like on a typical Saturday, nobody would think twice about somebody going to Walmart and buying a 72 roll shrink wrap thing and lugging it out to their car. Nobody would even question that. But if suddenly 1,000 people do it all at once, well, there you've got a problem. And that's the problem. So, I mean, I think people were trying to do the right thing. It just turned into some sort of weird panic. I don't think there was any disconnect in terms of like people thought that, the better the toilet paper, the less of a chance they had of getting the virus. I think they were just trying to avoid having to go out.
But it's just, there are so many other things that I would think to stock up on first. But then again, I used to live occasionally out in the woods in the desert, so I think, well, if we run short on toilet paper, we're in New York City and down the block, well, there's the New York Times and the New York Post. You can use that.
You got that going for you. So now you did mention something that I just want to say. Have you vetted this whole Lysol thing?
Yeah, I mean, Lysol, I wouldn't be like last week with my Uncle Dondi. We were looking at cans of Lysol in a local store, and he's, I don't think this cap is right. And it was the pressurized one. He sprays himself in the face.
Oh, no.
No, don't do that. And, no, I think I can fix it. And he sprays us both in the face. I'm like, this is why women live longer. But I haven't seen a shortage of the Lysol here, although I've heard now there's a rush on Lysol. But that's one of the things that really breaks up viruses very well. And so as long as you're not rubbing it on the hands of young children, it's a good thing going outside. You rub a bit of Lysol on your hands, wash your hands with just a little bit, just like soap, and leave it on your hands when you're going out and you're touching doorknobs and tabletops and everything else.
So you're talking about liquid Lysol. You're talking about
liquid Lysol, not
liquid Lysol.
Big spray can. A little bit of liquid Lysol. One little bottle lasts you a month or more for that purpose.
So we're talking about a couple of drops.
Leave the rest of it on the shelf for other people. And but it's very good with viruses. It increases your odds of not catching it very soon pretty well. You get home, you wash the Lysol off with soap. Other simple things you can do, get a little plastic baggie, slice a slice of soap in a little plastic baggie, and even if you're going around, if you're on the subway or something, dry wash your hands. And
so not hand sanitizer.
Depends what hand sanitizer. Most of them are not very good against viruses. They're antibacterial.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's just like people taking antibiotics if they have a cold virus. It's not going to do you any good. The only time you would want to take antibiotics is if that cold virus got a little out of control and you got a secondary bacterial pneumonia. Then an antibiotic will be good.
Now, some of this, I think, well, maybe it's not, but I think some of this could be psychosomatic, because I think there are some people who, for example, they do things which have been proven time and time again to not actually improve one's chances of avoiding a cold, but they do it anyway because it's worked in the past, right? And they kind of imagine that they've created some sort of force field around them. And maybe that is in and itself perhaps something which keeps them healthier, their outlook, their positive outlook. But
one thing you see in all these tests of new drugs, and they do double-blind studies because of the placebo effect. And one thing that these studies don't say is, wow, the placebo effect does quite a lot.
Right.
So someone will say, well, the drug worked 5 to 10% better than the placebo, and the placebo worked 30% better than nothing at all.
Right. There's lots of pharmaceuticals that aren't nearly as effective as the placebo too. So not terribly surprising. In fact, we did a show on that a little while ago about the placebo effect. Even when you tell somebody, I'm giving you a placebo, it was still more effective even when you told them. Even you said this has absolutely no therapeutic value whatsoever. We're insisting you do it 3 times a day, and they still got better. Which I think was so funny. But that they were arguing that this is part of our psychological composition. But that brings us back to the idea of the mob stuff that you're worried about. And I have to say, I kind of agree with that. If the first hour's required reading is The Great Influenza by John Barry, I think second hour required reading is Lord of the Flies. And that thin line.
Great novel.
It's a great novel, but it really speaks to that breakdown between, in this case, all of these, proper English schoolboys as a metaphor for society, and how quickly they turned in, quickly they went primitive, and it became a game of, of survival. And I think that part, I can't quite imagine what the trigger for that would be like. I don't, looking ahead, I'm not sure whether, hopefully there is no such thing. But if there were, join me in wondering what that would take for people to start really digging deeper into a sense of anarchy, which right now is being avoided. We're still maintaining order. But what would ever happen? The complete breakdown of the stock market where suddenly nobody had any savings anymore, or they were wiped out in their 401k, which they were hoping for their retirement, knowing they're going to have to spend the rest of their life working. I mean, that's what I'm wondering is what might be the trigger for that.
Might even be simpler than that. I kind of get the impression, and looking back across history, that anarchy is really only 4 meals away.
Yeah.
And then you end up with warlords running everything locally.
There was that story, I don't know if you saw it, about the guy who there's been several people who have been kicked off of Amazon because they had hoarded, in this case, the guy had about 18,000 bottles of hand sanitizer, big bottles of hand sanitizer. He had been driving around and buying them up and then was selling them at a price gouging rate. And Amazon caught onto it and just simply said no. And so now he's stuck with a garage full of all of this stuff. I thought it was pure poetic justice. But Marjorie my wife sent me an article.
If all he has is the hand sanitizer that only works against bacteria.
Yeah, exactly. So Marjorie sent me this article. Did you hear about this, that the Massachusetts virus outbreak looks like Italy's, but just 2 weeks ago? That it's on the same trajectory as where Italy was, at almost the exact same numbers in Boston. And it's all because of a scientific conference that brought people in from around the world to go to the conference. And then after they went to the conference, many of the people from Italy and other countries in Europe then spread out. Hey, we're in the United States. Let's go to Europe. Yeah. Let's go to Washington.
So even until this week, the Explorers Club was still going to have its annual dinner with people coming in from all over the world. And there are enough scientists in the Explorers Club that finally they figured, maybe this isn't a good idea.
Right. Yeah. But in this case, 175 executives met from around the country and then unwittingly spread the contamination across the city and likely around the world from Boston. And it's one of the reasons why Boston has become somewhat of an American epicenter for this outbreak.
And to get an idea about how it can spread from one or just even a few people and then, chain reaction out into the population. And even though he had a virus in his novel that was more on a scale with what happened in ancient Rome, what happened along the Amazon, Stephen King's The Stand, in an early chapter, how the one guy, he goes to a diner and he hands over a dollar bill that's crawling with death, and the other guy who's going across country with his children. And although this is nothing like the fictional virus in Stephen King's The Stand.
Yeah.
Stephen King I hear he's very angry about people calling this virus, sometimes calling it Captain Trips, and he's pointed out, no, it is not that. And believe it or not, someone responded to him about The Stand and said, well, how do you know? Have you even read the book?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Right. And that's interesting. Dean Koontz is tentatively booked for us in early April. And he, too, had a similar kind of scenario in one of his books. And I think that
had the year 2020.
Yeah.
Where virus came out of that part of China. Yeah.
Which is fascinating that it was out of that part. And it goes back to, again, what a lot of people have said, that this giant wet market. Now, so, I mean, you're an aficionado of Chinese food, right? You took me for a table full of a tour of fairly authentic Chinese food, which I enjoyed very much. And tell Mary I'm still very much addicted to black vinegar as a result of it. But it is interesting how that area of China continues. I mean, because even if John Barry's right, that now some people are saying that in fact the Spanish flu could have originated in China. That this line between what the diseases are that animals have and what we pick up from them, that's really this, and the people who live in the closest proximity to their animals are the ones that may put the globe at the most make the globe the most vulnerable.
And certain animals that are kept together, it's like pigs and chickens and ducks should never be kept together, because that's how these things leap from the bird population through pigs to humans.
Right, and or
and
bats.
it's a long dated lesson that we just haven't caught on to. The first of these devastating plagues that swept the Roman Empire, well, it happens in the time of Emperor Titus. What did they do during Titus' time? Well, huge Colosseum building, including the Colosseum, and when they opened it, all these exotic animals. There's one account where, they brought in 300 giraffes and had soldiers go out and fight and kill the giraffes. Not that a giraffe can give that much of a fight, but I mean, they had all these exotic animals from India and Africa, and they were bringing into Colosseums around the world animal blood all over the gladiators. And what do you have happen? Right at around the time Vesuvius blows up, Emperor Titus gets hit with the plagues and the fires in Rome, but the plagues were more devastating than the eruption of Vesuvius.
Right.
The burial of Pompeii and Herculaneum and all these towns.
Well, that's where we'll have to leave it for now. But always a pleasure to speculate with you and to work through the different ways that you look at both history and science and the interplay when we put those two together to try to understand what our future is about. Charles Pellegrino, we will talk soon. You know that. And I'll be in touch. And thanks for giving us an hour tonight. The link